Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Instead We Made a Pod. I am your co-host, MJ, and this would normally be where I would introduce my lovely co-host, Adam. Unfortunately, Adam is sick. He has been struck down by some sort of horrible chest infection bug thing, the kind of illness that really doesn't loan itself well to talking, which we will be doing a lot, obviously. But I am not alone. It's not just going to be me talking. I am joined by our lovely guest and co-host of the evening. She did actually appear on a previous episode when we did a 2018 rewatch, and she was such great value that we just had to bring her back again.
It's me. It's Georgia. So that was perfect. I am very, very happy to be back. Very glad that I wasn't so emotional last time that you just decided you're never having me back again.
Oh, that was my favourite bit. It was adorable when you were talking about Under the Ladder. It's one of my favourite moments we've had.
I'm definitely glad that we got that on recording, that it was just me almost in tears over Melvin. But that's fine.
And also maybe kind of glad that we didn't have you on for the Bid Beer episode, because it would have been tears for a sad reason.
Yeah. But no, very excited to be on and talking about another of my favourite national finals, UMK.
Yes, you do love UMK. Obviously, we both are contributors to Phoenix, and you are our Finland girl. What is it about UMK that you just love so much that whenever we sit down before a season and decide who's doing what country, you're like, yep, I'll do UMK, guys. I'm quite happy to take this one.
It's so strong, which I guess kind of feels like almost a cop out to say it's like, oh, it's a strong national final, so I'll take it. But for how small it is, the variety, how much of a staple it's become for Euro fans. Like I remember even through COVID, that 10 p.m. for UK, 10 p.m. UK time, you'd sit there, the next music video would drop. It's so easy to follow. The media that they put out in terms of keeping up to date with all the artists, keeping that hype going for the national final, and then the stage show they always put on. It is growing to be one of the bigger national finals now and one of the most exciting. And you just know the Finland are going to serve equality no matter what.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that's really shone through this year in particular. Yeah. The production value just seems to have gone on another level this year. And obviously that's probably really been helped by Karja and just how well Cha 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 did, and televoters just loved it. Really goes to show sort of, what doing well at Eurovision can do for a country. Obviously it didn't win. Some people feel like it should have, but that's a debate that we'll leave in 2023. What it seems to have done for Finland as a country is amazing. And
100%.
I'd love to see Finland host a Eurovision based on what we got this year in terms of the stage, in terms of the arena. I had friends who got press accreditation this year, and they were telling me about some of the things that YLA, I know that's not how you pronounce it, had them doing sort of as part of the press run. And it just sounded so much fun. And they really do seem like they really want to take it seriously. Yeah. And I always appreciate that.
Like this year's UMK definitely felt like it was almost an audition to host Eurovision. It was showing you, we're not hosting, even down to the original ads, the Welcome to Tampere, the wannabe host of Eurovision. When those first went up, it felt like, oh, this UMK is going to be different. It's going to be the audition. It's going to be, if we had one, this is what you would have got from Finland. This is what you would have got from the broadcaster. Even though they didn't win, they weren't holding back. They were showing, this is what you would have got. Malmö beat this almost.
Yeah, definitely. And definitely as a host country, this is what we can do. Even potentially as an audition for a host city as well. It seems like Tampere was a really great place for it to be hosted. Very cold, but I guess that's to be expected. Finland, February. We're both kind of on the same page then about UMK being a really great national final, this year being no exception. But where we might have some interesting opinions is on the songs themselves and also how those songs placed. Now, in our last episode for Vidbit, there were 11 songs, and we kind of kept the format similar to our sort of rewatch episodes where we pick our top 5 and discuss them. Luckily, as we've said before, UMK, it's a small selection of really solid songs. So we actually are able to talk about all of the songs in an episode, which I always like it when that happens. We certainly wouldn't be able to do that if we were talking about San Remo instead of UMK this week. Be like, strap in, Georgia.
Didn't sign up for that one.
Absolutely not. No, I think I'd be getting a shout out to Grace, who's our sad girlie. I'd just let her take the reins on that one. She knows way more than I could ever dream to know about San Remo. Shout out to Grace.
Huge shout out to Grace.
But we have you here, our UMK girl. We're going to do this in Miss World reverse order. So starting with the song that placed last, all the way up to the winner, just like we did for our ESCZ episode. So let's start with the song that placed last, song that I'm actually really sad where it placed, which is Korema by Cine Sabotage. This, before I watched the show, it was between this and another song for my winner, actually. I loved this when the music video dropped. Really, I really wanted Finland to be for the girlies this year. This, I just thought, was such a bop. When this comes on inevitably in Euro Club or at any Eurovision events I go to forevermore, when this song comes on, I am going to be in the middle of the dance floor going for it.
You and me both. You and me both.
I was going to say, Georgia, I know you love a little serve on the dance floor as well. Will you be bopping to this song?
100%. Honestly, I'm so gutted. Finland paid her dust. Cine deserved so much more. This song, when I was writing the articles for it beforehand for UMK, and I was just unpicking it, and it's like the whole onion metaphor of like having many layers, which felt very Shrek to start with. I started thinking, are we referencing Shrek here? Love a pop culture reference. Then when you get into it and it's the whole thing of like she's had all these labels or layers stuck to her in her career in the past, and this is her saying she's so much more than the layers and the labels that have been stuck on her. And if you just dig deeper or peel back those layers, you'll be able to see the real her. There's so much more of a deeper message, which also conveys itself in the song, where the song, it seems like really, she said, she's called it like quite sexy, flirtatious on the surface, and then you peel it back and it's like actually got quite a serious message. I just feel like it should have been paid so much more love, attention. It deserved so much more than the points that it got. The 36 points from the juries, the 27 from the televote. That 27 was ridiculous. Oh, I can't. The feeling seeing that score just hurt. But it was so strong, and it would have been an incredible moment. And the staging was incredible. The staging was wacky, but it was perfect for the song, removing all the layers, everything. I'm gutted because I thought it was one of the stronger songs in the selection as well. It was up there in my ranking. I really just don't understand, to be honest. I don't know how it came last. I know one song's got to, but I don't know how it was Cine and Korima that came last.
I agree. I mean, obviously I'm biased. I love this song. I do have a little theory, which if you look at this placing last this year, and then last year, Hoidama placing last, which I know hurt you as well. It hurt me too. I feel like the Finnish population just don't like a sexy banger. Maybe it's too cold. Maybe they're like, no, Cine, keep those layers on. It's minus 20 degrees outside. Stop taking things off.
It's an unpractical, just stop, less practical, more layers.
Yeah, they're like, put them back on, Cine. What are you doing? Maybe I don't know. I just feel like maybe they just have an issue with just a sexy, sexy banger. Obviously, I don't. I thought it was great. And I know what you mean about that televote score. I was really shocked by the televote. I expected this to do better with the televote than it did with the jury.
Yeah.
I kind of knew that it wasn't going to do amazingly because I saw the results of the press poll and it was coming last, and I was like, okay, this isn't going to go the way that I want it to. But the jury score wasn't that bad at the end of it. And, I also got lured into a false sense of security when Armenia gave it 12 points straight away. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my God, it's doing amazing. And then it didn't. But I really thought this was the kind of thing that televoters would respond better to than juries, and they just didn't. And I was so surprised. I mean, we talk about, staging that has everything but the kitchen sink. Well, this had everything and the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
When she stabs that onion at the beginning of the song, really, really driving that metaphor home for anyone who doesn't get it. And then all the layers and the wig and the shaving cream. And you could argue that maybe it was too much for people, but I mean, I loved Monsters from Finland in 2018. Me and you talked about that in that
Yeah.
episode. That's another one where a girl threw everything, everything at the juries, and they just didn't respond.
Honestly, I had one prediction for the staging though, and it was she's going to have a self-playing piano, and she didn't. She stabbed the piano, but she did not have a self-playing piano. Maybe if she'd had a self-playing piano, then she would have got more of a televote score. You never know.
You never know. I mean, it worked for Alika 2023.
Exactly.
Who doesn't love a self-playing piano? Cine Sabotage, she stabbed it to death, clearly. I do wish that the colour scheme had been a bit more like the music video. I love the bright blue aesthetic that she had going on in the music video, and I felt like that mint green. I love that colour, but I did feel like, apart from the big bombastic camp staging, obviously, that it felt a bit more muted.
Yeah, the blue was so eye-catching. The blue, the greens, the sparkly silvers from the music video. I also I really wish she carried that colour palette over. That would have popped on the stage. It did feel like it was a bit too samey. The light pink bows and the light pink everything, and then the mint green, it just kind of like washed it all out almost. Whereas the bright blue would have been like a pop. Even if in one of the reveals it had been taking off the light pink to be a bright pink, or like the mint green, and it replaces it with that blue bodysuit that she's wearing in the music video, something. One of the reveals had been the pop of colour. That would have been really cool, I think, and would have probably elevated it a bit more.
Yeah, agreed. And she came out first as well, so maybe that would have left a more lasting impression of televoters. Yeah. I don't know. But either way, I think she was robbed. I will continue to have this on rotation in my playlists, and I will see you on the dance floor when it comes on, Georgia, inevitably at Eurofest or something.
Yes, we will be there, and I will not apologise. I was about to say sorry in advance, but no, I will not apologise.
No, we will not apologise for tearing up the dance floor of the Royal Vauxhall Tavern. Sixth place then was a song that, again, I think people were kind of expecting to do a bit better than it ultimately did, and that was Mania by Sex Main. This was one that, again, I really liked. I liked most of the songs in UMK this year, to be fair. I thought that they all had their own thing to offer, and I really like his voice. He's a very, very beautiful man, which obviously isn't reason to send someone to Malmö, but it's always appreciated. And I was really intrigued to see what this would do, because I think at some point people were even talking about this potentially, could it be a blindsiding kind of unexpected winner? My feeling is that in the middle of that stage, obviously he had the strings kind of pulling him back, almost a little bit like Paria did with the cha-cha-cha dancers, but on a much kind of smaller scale. I felt like in the middle of that stage with just that, the whole thing kind of looked a bit empty. So I can kind of see how this had the potential to get overlooked. Georgia, what were your thoughts on Mania?
So Mania was actually my winner of UMK.
Oh,
so I'm very.
Oh no,
but not too happy with the placement. It was my winner since I first heard it. It really struck a chord. The whole message of the song being about how you never really know what's going on inside someone's head. No matter what successes they're presenting on the outside, they can have all these internal struggles and they can be fine one day, but not the next. They can be like a lot more broken the next just because of the happy face they put on the day before. No matter what they've achieved, you just don't know what they're going through and what's going on in their head. Watching it first time, hearing the lyrics, it's like, okay, I can hear there's something here, even without necessarily being able to understand all of the Finnish. Watching it again with the English subtitles, I'm like, okay, oh, this is a lot more than it seems on the surface. The staging I thought was perfect because him alone on the stage, it felt empty, but also kind of with just those four chords tying him back to something, say, maybe his worries, maybe big fears, or something existential, but it's just him alone in his head almost. When you put it in the perspective of the song and of everything it's representing, it made so much sense. Even the way he was moving around stage, twisting. At one point, he leant forward so far that the chords were the only thing holding him up. So it was almost like he was supported by them. They're supporting him, but also they're holding him back. There's so much deeper interpretation sometimes. I think where I almost fell in love with the song so much, the meaning of it, picking apart each little bit of performance, the lyrics, and just seeing it all come together on stage, it was kind of breathtaking. Like I took a step back and went, oh, this works so well, even if it's just him and four chords holding him back. I knew he wasn't going to win UMK. My personal winner didn't win last year. My personal winner is not going to win again this year. I have a very different view to the Finnish public. I've established this. But I mean, I could rant about this for days, and I probably still will. We all know that I'm still ranting about last year's UMK result, so I'm going to be ranting about this year's UMK result this time next year. So yeah, I'm just absolutely in love with the song, and although it hurts where it placed, I'm not surprised.
That's so interesting what you said about how when you have a kind of emotional pull and emotional tie to a song, you kind of notice these little idiosyncrasies that maybe other people
Yeah.
don't pick up on, because there is a song in this selection of Finnish songs this year that I have that with, and just every little thing you're like, oh, that all fits perfectly because you appreciate so much about what the song is trying to say. We'll get to mine in a minute, but yeah, I completely appreciate that. The staging wasn't much, but for what the song is about, it's perfect. It's enough. And it is
Yeah.
such a shame that obviously ultimately it wasn't enough to get him any higher than sixth. Georgia, just for the people that are listening to this podcast who maybe don't know you as well, what was your winner last year?
I ended up having two because I came to the realization that, okay, maybe I have other reasons why I have the main winner. So I had, well, three winners that kind of alternated were Kuma with Iwainen,
Oh,
Benjamin and
Makuma.
Hoidemut.
Yeah.
But the one I'm most known for, I think, within circles, um, is my love of Robin Packalen, Girls Like You, and I am a staunch Girls Like You defender. And I knew that it wasn't gonna do as well as I wanted it to. And I still harp on about it to this day. So, and I will be probably until the end of time. But yeah, I'll just add Mania to my list of UMK entries that I will never shut up about, I guess.
Otherwise known as Finnish men that made Georgia cry.
Yeah, that's also another good name for the list.
That's what we're calling it from now on. I've
Yeah.
deemed it. And yeah, I will say for the people listening, I aspire to be as happy as Georgia was the day Robin Packlen got announced for UMK. She really does love him so much.
Yeah.
He really is her favourite.
Yeah.
In fifth place, then, was a song that actually ended up shooting up in my rankings having watched the show, which was Glow by Jesse Markin. I liked this when it dropped, the music video. I thought it was really fun. I thought there was a bit of an element of kind of like a World Cup song about it, which, I mean, I like football. I like a World Cup song. Who doesn't? There was a little bit of me that felt like the studio version to me felt like something out of like a 2010s Eurovision, like a mid to late 2010s Eurovision. However, when I watched this last night being Saturday, we're recording this on Sunday, I ended up loving this. I was like, wait, this has finally properly clicked with me. And were it not for my sort of actual winner, which we haven't got to yet, this probably would have been my winner. I thought he smashed it. I just thought his performance, it felt like he was really giving it his all. And I felt like live, he just sounded so much better. I'm going to check out more of him off the back of UMK because I think that Jesse Markin is an incredible performer. And I didn't really appreciate what a great performer he is until I saw his live performance of Glow. It really did make me sort of sit up and take notice. I was so impressed by this, and I really wasn't expecting that it would become my second place at all, but it was. I was kind of sad that he was paid dust by the juries. He came sort of second to bottom with Sex Main. And I just thought that was a damn shame because I really liked this. He did a bit better with Televote, which I was happy to see. Kind of pushed him up a little bit over Sex Main, obviously, because they got the same jury score, 34 points. Yeah, I ended up really appreciating this way more having seen it live. Georgia, what were your thoughts on Glow?
I've loved Glow since like the moment it dropped. I remember when Glow dropped and we'd had quite a few different entries at that point. I was like, this year's UMK has a song for every aspect of my music taste. And Glow is just one of those. It's so happy-go-lucky, so feel good. I just loved how upbeat it is. I know it's going to be one of those songs that is in heavy rotation in my playlist. It is just going to go with me throughout the year. The staging was incredible. It was so perfect. Kind of reflected the feel good come together vibes of the song, the color scheming, everything. It was just really, really cool. The song itself has been 5 years in the making, so it was never to do with UMK to start with. It was so many different variations. I remember one of the VTs, Yessie, said he started writing on toilet paper of all things. So it's been so crafted and gone through so much to see something that has that much love put into it come to life on the UMK stage. It's just so incredible. And the message behind it as well, it's such an upbeat, uplifting, motivational message, which you can never get enough of, I think. You can never get enough of something that's like, you're going to make it no matter what. No matter what life throws at you, you're going to have the good and the bad, but you can't have the good without the bad, and the bad is going to make the good feel better, stuff like that. I feel like it's one of those that was always going to be like Marmite. You always knew it's either going to be a love or a hate. Televote are either going to love this or hate this. Thinking back to some of the other Eurovision style entries that almost follow a similar vein, you always know that they're either going to be love or hate 50-50. Whereas more of a concentrated group where it is just the Finnish public voting, and then you've got the addition of the international juries, you know it's going to be quite Marmite. I wanted it to be on the good side. I hoped that it would do incredibly, like it would resonate and it would be the uplifting party style anthem that would keep things going. I just really loved Glow, and I want to say it pretty much every song was robbed this year, but you also can't say that. Like, not every song can be robbed. You came second. You're still robbed. Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I wish everyone could have won. Pretty much, almost everyone could have won. Again, a lot of feelings about Glow, and it was definitely up there for me personally as well.
I think what you said about it being years in the making is really interesting because I think that you can really see that this wasn't written with a national final in mind. It really feels like this is the essence of who this man is as a performer. And I love that because, in my opinion, that is when prospective Eurovision entries work the best, is when it's something that's just really authentic and really real to that artist and the art they want to make, rather than, oh, I wrote this song with a song contest in mind and with this notion of what the song contest is. It's, this is my best work. This is something I've put my heart and soul into, and this is what I want to show the world to say. This is my music. This is who I am. And again, I think that probably really shone through in the way he performed as well, because he just had so much energy, and I was just so blown away by his stage presence. And I think that, you know, if you're spending so long crafting this song that really is, you know, something that you've put your life into, having that moment to perform it in a massive arena full of people, yeah, you're going to get an absolute buzz off that. And it really seems like he did. Fourth place then was returnees to UMK. They competed in 2022 with their song Hurricane, and they're back in 2024. It was Cyan Kicks with their song Dancing with Demons. I loved Cyan Kicks in 2022. I wanted them or best to win. Obviously, it went to the Rasmus, and as a older millennial Euro fan, obviously I have fond memories of the Rasmus, but I really wanted Cyan Kicks or best to win. In terms of Dancing with Demons, I really liked it. I had it fourth in my ranking after watching the show, which is where it ended up. I definitely preferred their 2022 entry a lot more, but I did really enjoy Dancing with Demons. I thought they did a really good job performing it. I just think that in terms of the overall package of all of the songs, maybe it just didn't stand out quite as much. I really want to know why there was such a massive delay between them performing it and sort of the hosts introducing it. I was like, are they bringing on some ginormous prop or something? Why is it taking so long for them to introduce Cyan Kicks? Because I knew people who were there as well that said it seemed like everything had been ready to go. So I'd be intrigued to understand why that happened. I liked Dancing with Demons. It wasn't my winner. I appreciated it. I'd like to see them back again, but maybe with something a bit more like Hurricane. Really enjoyed Hurricane. Georgia, what were your thoughts on Cyan Kicks this year?
So Cyan Kicks previously, they were my winners. Way back when they were beaten by the Rasmus, which I have thoughts on that as well that we won't get into.
Maybe we'll have to get you back on for a 2022 rewatch and then you can give us your thoughts.
Just UMK 2022. There we go.
That would be a show, actually. I'd love that.
See, this is how I slowly get all my national finals in. It's like you bring me back, but just for Georgia's national finals.
Our Finnish representative, Georgia.
Yes. Maybe we'll chuck a Latvia in there as well one day. You never know.
Oh yeah, we just rewatch all of Marcus Reeves' entries.
There's a compilation.
Are you joking? How long is it?
I think it's just clips. Luckily it's just clips.
Cowards.
I also feel like this is information that I probably shouldn't know, but also we're not surprised that I do. But Cyan Kicks, I really loved Dancing with Demons, but also considering it was the first entry that was revealed at this year's UMK, it kind of set the tone. Is this what we're going to expect from this year? Throwing the kitchen sink and more, back with a bang. I loved it. I was like, oh, are they going to be my winners again? They were my winners with Hurricane. Dancing with Demons going to be my winner. We all know it wasn't. The stage show was incredible. I really liked how the camera work was almost black and white and it kind of reflected their outfits. And I also did think at one point, obviously we can't have live instruments on a stage with Eurovision, so you could kind of tell if you watched the band enough that they weren't playing live, which was kind of sad. I mean, if they were, but it did look very much like they weren't. I thought it was just a solid entry. I mean, it came mid-table. It was mid-table in my rankings by the end, so I don't know how much more there is I can say other than the fact that I think it was just a good solid entry and I kind of did want more from them. Although it seemed very, this is the pinnacle when it first came out. That's because we had nothing to compare it to. Comparing it to all 7 songs, I think mid-table is kind of where you'd expect, or I would have expected it to sit. We had so many more stronger songs, like popular, I think, at the end that overshadowed Cyan Kicks almost. And also the fact that they were returnee, I don't think helped them because people already had preconceived notions of what they wanted from Cyan Kicks, whereas the rest of the lineup were brand new, they were fresh, so people didn't really know what to expect. So not only were Cyan Kicks this year being compared to 6 other acts, they were also being compared to their 2022 entry. So it was like, oh, it's not as good as 2022, and maybe it's not as good as some people this year as well. So it added an extra layer of almost comparisons for them to battle with for the entire show. And in that way, I kind of feel sad, but also that's what you get to expect, I guess, from returnees. If you're going to return to a competition with something that may or may not be as good or as well perceived as your previous entries, you're going to come up against those comparisons and then have that form an extra barrier with your other competitors as well. But yeah, Cyan kicks, mid-table, I think probably one of the results that I agree with.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're right that if you are a returnee, you're inevitably going to get compared favorably or otherwise to your previous efforts. And, there weren't any returnees, so they were always going to bear the brunt of that. We see that in every competition. I mean, look, we've just had San Remo this weekend as well, and inevitably Diodato's song this year got compared with Fire More, and Mahmood's song gets compared with his two attempts to Eurovision entries.
Yeah.
It's always going to happen, which is sad, but it's just the way the cookie crumbles, I guess. I also really liked that it was the first song that we got for UMK this year, because shout out to a friend of mine, Rob, who does enjoy Eurovision. He only really watches the finals. Sometimes he'll watch the semi-finals. He's not a nerd like we are. Which must mean that his Saturday nights are, a lot freer, so that's nice. But I remember talking to him about Eurovision once, and he was like, I love that Finland just send bots. And when this was the first song that was announced, he was the first person I thought of. So I was like, wow, they're really not doing anything to dispel the myth that Finland send bots. And then Cyan kicks with their staging and their look and everything were the first straight out the gate. Obviously, Finland haven't sent a goth this year, but I just thought that was really funny. God bless the goths. Third place was Vox Populi by Mikhail, Gabriel and Nublu. One that I guess a lot of people, I think, assumed was going to win. It was doing well in Finland. It got a lot of views and streams and does have that kind of televote appeal. But I guess ultimately the song that won, which we'll get onto, and hoovered up the televote, meant that even though they did really well in the televote, maybe they didn't do as well as if no rules hadn't been there. I find this song really difficult to talk about because as a song, sonically, I have no problems with it. I sort of think it's fine. In terms of the political views of one of the members and the fact that the song is very much about political views and opinions, I find this very difficult to separate my opinion on the politics of one of the members, which I do not agree with, from the song. And you know what? That happens a lot in Eurovision. How many Eurovision artists have we had that have sent songs and turned out to be anti-vaxxers, which I don't agree with, or have turned out to have some really quite problematic views on the LGBT community, which I definitely don't agree with, and also don't really understand how you can have those views and go for Eurovision, the gayest contest in the world. But ultimately, it can be, we can go into a whole debate about separating the art from the artist. It's a hell of a lot easier to do that when the song has nothing to do with politics, when the song is just a song. This song is ultimately about political views, and the political views of one of the members are really not very nice to me. So I do find this quite a difficult song to talk about. I didn't want this to win, and I was glad when it didn't win ultimately, because I just kind of feel a bit icky about that kind of thing. So, Georgia, please put me out of my misery and talk about Vox Populi so I don't have to.
See, I was going to say I agree with absolutely everything you said. I find this a very, very difficult song to perceive. I think it doesn't help where it's very face value. It's nothing about it is hidden, nothing about the artists is hidden, and it's not like they even tried hiding anything. Because we all know artists sometimes, if there's will they, won't they's, they can spin things or they try spinning things. There was no spin here. Everything was clear as day. The interpretations of it were just there. It wasn't even interpretations at the end of the day. It was, this is what the lyrics say. This aligns with how one of the artists is known to have these views. And it has just made me very, very uneasy since I first heard the song. I think it also hasn't helped where doing the deep dives into the song for Phoenix articles and stuff, I was almost hoping that there would be something that would be almost turn that corner and be like, oh no, actually. But there wasn't a, oh no, actually. It was all kind of confirming what was there and on the surface. And I agree with you. I find it a very, very difficult song to talk about, which also just ultimately a song that difficult to talk about with a hook that catchy, a tune that catchy, it's made to be an earworm and it's made to get people talking and it's made to get stuck in your head because on the surface, like you've said, if it didn't have those lyrics, if the singers didn't have those views that are obviously portrayed and can be seen throughout the song, it would be a good song. It would be one like, if it didn't have the message it had, would probably end up on like my rotation because it's a catchy song and it just seems good, but it's not good. Nothing about that song, content wise, is good other than the tune, honestly. If it was an instrumental, I think would be fine. So yeah, I just totally agree with you. It's a really, really difficult one to talk about. And I kind of almost went into it knowing that the Finnish public, because you've seen the reaction to it, you could see where it was charting. You knew it was going to get high up. There were the fears. I'm going to call them the fears that it would win. And I am very, very glad that it didn't. I'm kind of disappointed, but not surprised that it came third. The televote score, I mean, third in the televote as well. Getting 12 from the Ukrainian jury, being one of only 3 songs to get points from every single international jury. I honestly don't know how much more I can say about it because I don't have a lot of positives to say about it, if any at all.
Well, the upside is that that song did not win. So
Yeah,
never have to talk about it again.
very, very true.
We did a space this morning where we talked about UMK. We've done the podcast. We don't have to talk about Vox Populi anymore. Woo! Song that we do have to talk about is a song that came second. And if Georgia will indulge me, in the words of the singer of this song, I'm a fucking wreck. It is Paskana by Sarah Sipala. Oh my God. I can't describe the chokehold this song has had on me since the music video dropped for it. I was so happy that the music video featured the lyrics in English, or at least there was closed captioning on it when I was watching it, because those lyrics were just a punch in the gut when I read them. I wish I knew Finnish because I imagine they're even better. People will know from listening to this podcast enough that I love a sad girl banger. This isn't even just a sad girl banger to me. It's so raw. Anyone who has ever had their heart broken or just had something awful happen, whether it's a breakup or anything, and had that feeling of, how can the world keep turning? How can life go on? How can people go about their mundane day-to-day tasks? And I'm stood there like this, just hurting, just feeling the worst I've ever felt. It was just, yeah. And the thing is, I'm a happily married woman. I haven't felt like that in a really long time. And yet, this song brought those feelings to the surface as if my husband had just walked out of the door and announced he was divorcing me and taken the cats with him. I am not ashamed to say that I cried watching this in UMK. I wept actually. And you were talking about Mania and how the staging really worked for kind of the message of that song. That was this for me when she stood there in the middle of that kind of circle with the lights spinning around her. And it's just all focused on her. And it's this idea again of like the world keeps spinning while I'm just stood static, utterly soul crushed. I'm not over it. I'm really not over it. I'm not over the song. I'm not over the fact that it didn't win. I've had my first experience of Eurovision 2024 where a song that I adore in national finals doesn't make it to Eurovision, and I am sad that I'm not going to get to see it in Eurovision. I don't know why I do this to myself every year. The people that just watch the finals and the semi-finals, they're the lucky ones. They don't understand the pain that me and you feel, Georgia.
Yeah, why do we do this to ourselves?
Why do we do this to ourselves? Of standing a song and just letting it just get a hold of you, and then the inevitable crushing pain of it not making it. I'm being so dramatic. I don't care. I love this so much. And I'm really glad that we're recording this the day after UMK and not the day of, because you wouldn't have got a coherent thought out of me. I was gutted this came second. It won the jury, which I think rightfully so. I think it had jury winner written all over it. And it came second with the televote, which I was really happy about, because there was a little bit of me that when I saw the way the televote was going, oh man, is this going to flop, the televote? But it didn't. And I'm really glad about that. But it's not going to Eurovision. And so I'm just going to be sad about that for a while. Georgia, what were your thoughts on Pascana?
So when the songs first came out, I forgot to put the subtitles on. So I literally had the finish and that was it. I cried and I didn't understand why I was crying. I was like, there's something about this song that is making me emotional, that is making me cry, and I can't understand, but like it is so powerful that there's something in that. The music almost transcending the language barrier, which again sounds very dramatic, but like it did, and it has, and that's what Pascal has done. There's only really a small portion of people that probably are watching UMK that speak Finnish other than the native Finns themselves. But Paskana is the song that I've seen that has kind of resonated with almost everyone in the Euro fandom. I swear I've seen across the timeline, everyone wanted Sarah to win. Everyone was just like so moved by Paskana. Obviously, then when I went back and watched it with the English translation on, I was like, okay, that's why I cried. Yep, I get it now. Maybe my brain is understanding the 300 plus days of Finnish that I've been learning, and maybe something's translating without me realizing. But I think it's such a beautiful song, and I was so ready for it to win. For me, in my rankings, it did slip down just because I can't put every song first. I can't put every song as high as I want it to in my rankings. It's a ranking of 7 songs ultimately, which makes it heartbreaking when you have to move a song down. I just thought it was beautiful and incredible and stunning. They're literally to the point where when they were doing the televote and announcing the scores, I was hovering over that graphic that the lovely Liv, shout out to Liv, who does our graphics. I was hovering over the Sarah graphic. It's like, I'm going to be posting this. I know I'm going to be posting this. And I wasn't in the end, which was very upsetting. I just think it is such a beautiful, moving song. And MJ, you pretty much said everything about it. It is so perfect. And the lyrics are just so well structured, and everyone can relate to it no matter what you've gone through. Even if you haven't even ever gone through that heartbreak, you've probably read books, watched TV, seen films that a character or someone has gone through that heartbreak, and you can relate the song to that. There is always something in your life that you can relate that song to and you can see. And it's just so beautifully moving. And I think it would have been such a breath of fresh air for Finland to send. And it would have been so lovely to go almost be that Finland don't always send rock. Finland don't always send XYZ. It's something different for them. So I am gutted that it didn't win, but very happy that it at least came second and got paid almost everything it deserved.
Yeah, you're right. I think it would have been really cool to see something like this from Finland, because it's really not something that Finland have given us much of, really. I mean, even for a woman as well, like the last time we got a woman was Sarah Alto. And I mean, obviously, we've had female band members, obviously, the guitarist of the Rasmus is a woman.
Yeah.
But to get even a female vocalist, I think would have been really cool. But to get a female vocalist with a song like this, it's not something you think of when you think Finland at Eurovision. It would have been competing with Teresa and Maria for my Eurovision winner at this point if it had. But there was a winner. It was not Sarah Sipala. There can only be one winner. And the act representing Finland at Eurovision 2024 is Windows 95 Man with no rules. Again, I have mentioned the fact that I am an older millennial on this podcast many a time. I will say that the name Windows 95 Man fills me with great joy as someone that had a computer that was Windows 95. However, I completely understand that some people love this sort of thing at Eurovision. That's fine. I'm not going to knock you if this is the kind of thing that you enjoy. It's not for me. It's not the kind of thing that I enjoy at Eurovision. I'm kind of over this kind of entry at Eurovision, especially now that the semis have kind of gone to televote only. There is a fear that are we going to get kind of jokey novelty kind of acts more now that they kind of have such an obvious televote pull. I get that it's a sort of light-hearted, jokey song with a message, and that it's about sort of being yourself and not letting other people's rules about sort of what's normal or acceptable hold you back from just being your authentic self. I get that. I agree with that message. I think you should be yourself, but this isn't my thing. I get that it is other people's. My issue with this winning isn't even so much the song, it's with the voting system under which this won at UMK. At UMK, we have 75% of the televote and a 25% international jury split. We have seen with both Finland and Czechia this year that 75-25 voting split, for me, it doesn't work because ultimately that 25% contribution, wherever it's coming from, just doesn't make a blind bit of difference when 75% of whatever else is getting the lion's share of the votes. We saw with Czechia that the 25% Czech vote, they put Aiko fifth, but ultimately that didn't matter because the international televote liked her so much that they put her number one, overlooking kind of obvious live vocal issues because that was who they wanted to send. So it didn't matter really that 25% of the voters didn't want that because enough of a majority did. With UMK this year, Windows 95 Man came last with the jury, but because they came first with the televote, they're going to Eurovision. For me, if you're coming last with a jury, but you can still win, just don't have a jury. Either have 50-50. If you want to maybe give more credence to a televote audience, do what MGP do and make it 60-40, so at least the contribution of the other side still counts. For me, 25%, no matter where it is, whether that's jury, whether that's televote, it's lip service. Ultimately, their contribution means nothing because if an act that got first with the jury and second with the televote can lose to an act that scored last with the jury just because they dominated the televote, we'll just have it 100% televote then, if that's the case. I do think that something is not sitting well with me about the voting system. And obviously last year, Harrier dominated the televote as well. But also, he won the jury. So it didn't matter as much. And it was the same with ESCZ, with Vesna. But I think that those discrepancies have really shown a fundamental flaw with having such an uneven weighting between juries and televotes. And that's the reason I can't 100% get behind no rules. I think it's probably going to qualify for the final at Eurovision. I do think it's the kind of thing that locals watching the semis will go, oh, that's great, this is Eurovision. But I'm disappointed this year. What about you, Georgia?
Yeah, so with the whole televote thing, looking at my spreadsheet this morning, because anyone who knows me knows I love a spreadsheet. And so I had to go through the whole voting sequence and make a spreadsheet of all of the juries, the televote, and everything.
When
So
I tell you that Georgia told me she'd made a spreadsheet for this podcast, I was so excited. I was like, yes, Georgia made a spreadsheet for our podcast. This is
it
what she
wouldn't
does.
it wouldn't be me without a spreadsheet.
So on
So
brand.
it's, it's my one contribution. Well, my main contribution to Phoenix is the spreadsheet. So
He will
it just
literally be sat in a meeting and she'll be like, guys, I've made a spreadsheet, I've color coded it, I've done all this, and oh, I love it because I'm terrible at spreadsheets. So I'm really glad we've got someone that loves them.
I'm glad I can bring that to the table. That and my really, really confusing views on UMK music and winners and just everything in general. But yeah, I was looking at that spreadsheet and the juries didn't make an ounce of difference. Essentially, this was 100% televote. This national final didn't need a jury. It could have been half an hour shorter, get rid of the entire jury segment, and just gone on televote because those jury scores did not make an ounce of difference on the final score, other than just to bump them up a little bit. That being said, I am a Windows 95 man fan. I do like new rules, no rules even.
I'm a
I
big
feel
Dua Lipa fan.
very big Dua Lipa fan. No, I am a fan of no rules. I think it is very, very upbeat, very happy-go-lucky. It's one of those songs that give me a couple of drinks and some UMK karaoke, I will smash that song at karaoke. I love it. The staging left a lot to be desired. The denim egg was questionable. The jorts with sparklers, again, questionable, but not surprised when you know that the jorts are part of the whole Windows 95 man personality act, that whole thing. Like they've been a part of Timu, aka Windows 95 man. His whole stage show as Windows 95 man as a DJ. That's all been part of him. I'm not surprised it won because when it first came out, there were comparisons to the viral meme Planet of the Bass. Although I think the comparisons start and end with the 90s Euro dance. I think it's very Finland trying to copy the success that they had last year, which they've done before. It's not unlike Finland to try and copy and paste a success and go, okay, this fun rock act worked for us this year. Let's try again. Didn't work. Didn't work. Blind Channel and the Rasmus. Thinking of Chanel and mangoes. It's the mangoes over the timeline, but so yeah, it didn't work with Blind Channel and the Rasmus. Karia was fun. He was funny. He had a good song, and he brought that personality. And it feels like it's almost like a whole. We could have another act with personality again. They might replicate the same personality that Karia had, and therefore the success that Karia had. Whereas Karia's success was so much more than just cha cha cha. It was Karia as a performer, as a person, as everything that he brought to the table. I do think there is the concern of how it's going to be viewed by the general voting public at Eurovision, again, especially with the televote semis. I think it could, and I know I've seen a lot of people say this, it aligns very strongly with the type of entry that locals or casual viewers see as this is what Eurovision is, when in reality it's what Eurovision was back who knows when. And there's the concern that it might take us back to that, which you know that it's going to be used as one of those entries that people bring up and go, oh yeah, but do you remember the dude with the jorts with the sparklers over like this very moving ballad or something, or say over Teresa and Maria, something like that. You know that because of the personality and the stage show behind it, it's going to be memorable, maybe not in the way that people want. You don't want something to be memorable all the time for being silly. Also, I do have to have a huge shout out to Henry Pistonen, the vocalist. He's not actually credited on the track. I think some of the things I've seen, the confusion is Windows 95 man one guy? Is it the name of the act? Henry is the vocalist. He wasn't meant to be the vocalist. He wanted them to pick another, but ultimately it ended up being him. He deserves a shout as well, and I'm shouting him out because honestly, I think he should have a joint credit on the song. I don't know how much more you can say about it, really, other than it won. It might do well. I can see why it won. And also, you know what? Shout out to the UK jury for being the only jury to predict the winner and giving it 12.
And our 12 points go to Windows 95 Man.
Thank you so much, Olli.
No nyt Olli pistit.
I mean, I know we were all shocked when the UK jury gave it 12, but I didn't have it on my bingo card that the UK jury would be the one to predict the UMK winner. I don't really know what else there is to say about it other than congrats, Windows 95 Man, congrats Timu and Henry. And I think that this could, whether people want it to or not, I think this one could do fairly well at Eurovision. But also, we don't have all of this year's act, so I will revisit that when we do.
Yeah, I sort of knew that our jury were gonna give this 12 points. We're just such a deeply unserious nation. I think I've come to the conclusion. And I'm kind of obsessed with the fact that this was probably Ollie Alexander's first bit of international press for Eurovision, considering he's our act this year. And his first kind of public facing, hey, I'm representing the UK to another country that's obviously not us, was him announcing 12 points for Windows 95 Man. I don't know how he feels about that, but I hope that he's gearing up to release a song that will get us back to a UK win, because God, I'm excited for Ollie Alexander. I really hope he pulls something really good. And yeah, I'm really confused by the fact that Henry is not credited, and the fact that Windows 95 Man does just seem to be the man in the Windows 95 t-shirt, and that he's not really mentioned, because he's doing a lot of the singing. And yeah, I agree with you. I think give the guy some credit for the song. I guess before we wrap this up then, I've got to say, I thought that all of the interval acts for UMK this year were spot on from start to finish. I love that we got Kuma again, because I loved their song last year. I thought Benjamin did a really good job singing it, and when it went into Hoidema, it gave me life. And we got kind of a bit of a flavour of old Eurovision as well, with Katri Helena performing her 1979 entry. We got Karia and Erica Vickman. I just thought that staging was bananas. I really wish I had been in the arena for when Karia and Erica Vickman finished their performance. And then we got those opening bars to Cha Cha Cha. Because the arena just erupted, and I wish I'd been there. Just for the moment that it dropped into Cha Cha Cha, because I would have been right there screaming along with everyone as well. Georgia, what did you make of the interval acts for UMK?
I had to go back this morning and watch the Kuma Benjamin mashup. As I mentioned earlier, with Kuma and Benjamin fighting for my first place last year, it was just incredible. I got really emotional this morning watching it back, and you could hear the crowd singing every single word of Hoidema. It just reminds you just how much success these acts can get, even though, okay, Kuma and Benjamin are both very successful acts outside of UMK, Benjamin being a child star, Kuma being like one of the biggest bands in Finland currently. Their success hasn't been dulled by the fact that they didn't win UMK. In fact, it's blown up. And the fact that they both got to come back, sing these songs on the UMK stage, sing them together, because someone pointed out when it was announced that Kuma and Benjamin would be opening, that in one of the VTs last year, Kuma said about Benjamin's song in the whole VT where they do the listening to the other act songs, oh, we should swap songs. And people said, oh, I wonder if they're just going to swap songs. And to be honest, I think what they did, having Benjamin singing Ilvoinen, worked better almost. And also, I just want them to release that on streaming services. I will listen to that so much. It was so beautiful. The harmonies, everything I think I could ramble about that for days. It was incredible. It was really lovely as well having like old Eurovision represented and having last year's Eurovision represented as well. The Human Centipede Mark II, which was incredible, not limited by 6 dancers on stage. Incredible what Karia can do, and bringing a collab with Erica Vickman as well. Robbed. I won't go into it. Robbed. That was an incredible, and the stage show there, that was perfect. And part of me was like, can Finland not just send this to Eurovision? I would love it if they could. I think the interval acts just summed up UMK even more than the stage show of UMK itself. It was so fun, and it was so lovely to see everything culminating in that one stage show. This is Finland, this is UMK, this is what it has to offer. And it was just so lovely to see.
Yeah, I agree completely, especially about what you said about those kind of interval acts almost summed up the flavour of what they were trying to bring, even more so than the actual contest itself. And again, just coming back full circle to what we said at the beginning, I definitely need a Finland win in the next few years, because those interval acts, it just shows how good we will be eating when Finland do inevitably win and get the chance to host. They're going to absolutely throw everything at it, and it's going to be amazing. And I will definitely be there because it just looked like such a party.
You and me both.
Yes. And hopefully one of those is Cine Sabotage and we can just be bopping in the arena.
Oh, yes.
It will go on. So that wraps up our deeper dive into UMK. Georgia, thank you for coming in and filling in the boots as co-host.
Thank you for having me. They are very big shoes to fill, but I hope I did a good enough job.
You did a great job, and I'm sorry that I didn't force you to do an Irish accent.
No, I think we should all be glad that you didn't force me to do that, because I'm just not gonna go there.
No, we might be getting some strongly worded emails of complaint to the Phoenix ESC if we made you try. We will be producing some more episodes within the coming weeks. We're probably going to take sort of a little bit of a break from looking really in depth at one national final in particular until we get to Melfest. We will be doing a Melfest episode when we get a winner. Liv and I from the Phoenix ESC do have press accreditation for Melfest this year as well. And it's been great fun watching all the rehearsals and seeing everything sort of unfold as it's happening. In the meantime, we are continuing to do spaces as well. We do record those, so go and check out our Twitter at the Phoenix ESC so you can listen to those spaces and hear our thoughts. Check out our website, phoenixesc.com, as well as our Instagram for really cool graphics and for articles that we've written about the songs, the artists, the Melfest rehearsals. We've got a lot of content, and you should definitely be sticking around to see what we have to offer, because national final season and Eurovision season is well and truly underway, and we're here to make sure you're covered. I guess all that is left to say is thank you very much for listening, guys, and we'll see you very soon. Bye.